What's up, everybody? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for a Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the future class of gaming, a.k.a. Leftover Poppy, a.k.a. the New York Game Awards nominated Games Journalism of the Year at
Correct.
Blessing Adeoye Jr. Hello, Blessing.
What's up, Greg?
Nothing, man. How you doing? It's good. I haven't sat down with you in a while.
Yeah, it's been you've not been on KHG for the last
2 days.
Yeah,
2 days has been
and
too long.
I actually wanted to ask you, like, is it a sigh of relief when like these big news days happen and you miss KHG, or is it more so like,
I want to be there. I
want
want to be in the mix.
especially for like the last 2 days.
Yesterday,
where,
when you guys were talking about Phil Has Spoken, I'm in the car, I'm listening, I'm like, oh, but I would say this and I want to say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
when the things were popping off over the weekend,
Yeah.
I got to Sunday and I was like,
I saw, you and Janet going back of just give me a day off. I don't need to talk about this in my off hours.
Legit, there was a moment where I was like, oh man, you know what? Actually, thank God that I'm not on KFG on Monday, because I'd rather just listen to Greg and Tim talk about this. And I wake up on Monday, I get a text from you that's like, hey, can you be on KFG
Man, he's
Monday?
down. I need your help.
And I'm like, fuck, all right, cool. I guess I got to be on KFG Monday. But I feel like those were really good episodes.
They were really good episodes. You've been doing really good work here. I want you to know. I like the Games Daily a lot, and I like you on the Kind of Funny podcast a lot as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
me on the Kind of Funny podcast too.
Well, we'll do a little bit more often, but for now, I haven't talked about this, so Barrett, give me my one. Of course, hello, Xbox fans. I know it's a dark time, so on behalf of all the PlayStation fans, if only someone for 17 years had been telling you were marching right off the cliff. But here we are. And let me tell you, the water feels fine.
What does that even mean?
But in reality, no, fuck PC gaming. Yeah, it's been an interesting week for Xbox news.
Yeah. What's been your take / reaction to it?
You know, I feel this is not a gag.
Yeah.
This is very much, I have the same feeling about all the Xbox stuff as I do about The Rock and the Cody Rhodes stuff from WWE. I'll wait till I get my official announcement. You know what I mean? There's a press conference tomorrow. Let's see what WWE is going to say about the main event of WrestleMania. And then next week, they're doing whatever this business thing with Phil Spencer is going to be. Let's go. I think for me, it all seems like a bit of overblown nonsense. You know what I mean? That, of course, is tribalism. That, of course, is fanboyism. That is, of course, console wars. Like, that's all it's ever been. And the idea here of, let's just say, right now, this had already been announced. And I'm assuming the announcement is, yep, we're going to go multi-platform with these games. And there's a year exclusivity. They come out way later, like you're going to see with Starfield or whatever. Yeah. Okay, cool. Then I would be sitting here, and as a video game fan, as so many of us are, right? My desire to play Starfield would have won out over my desire to have a platinum trophy. Like, I would have bought, I would have already played Starfield. Starfield would not have dropped last year, and I would have said, well, as a big Bethesda fan, but a bigger PlayStation fan, I'm going to wait the year and wait for the giant complete package and everything. Like, no, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So if that's the plan, who gives a shit? It's already what's happening with PlayStation and PC games, right? Where it's like, okay, cool, yeah, you get the stuff later in the run up to the sequel. Tim made a salient point yesterday on Games Daily with you. Hey, if this turns out that it is next week, Phil comes out and he's like, we have all these studios. We want to make as much money as possible and to monetize to, protect bottom lines and our staff and yada, yada, yada. So everything is day and date everywhere. We are going to be third party, but you get it on Xbox, Game Pass, right? Still day and date. I think that's a very compelling argument that I think works in their favor. Yep. Do you want, think of every first party Xbox studio we now have with Activision, with Blizzard, with Double Fine, with the list goes on, right? Bethesda. You're going to tell me that when it gets to be the third month in a row that I go to the store to buy a $70 version of an Xbox game on PlayStation, that I'm not going to sit there and go, well, fuck. You're not going to be like, well, fuck, wait a second. Why not pick up the new TV and use the app? Why not just stream it? Why not pick up the S and put it on that's a compelling business argument as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's what we're driving at a lot in the last couple of days, is that I think the way in which you can compete in the video game scape has evolved and can continue to evolve.
And the war continues to change.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think this is Xbox adapting and going, all right, how do we do better business? How do we become bigger and better? And I keep coming back to, historically in what we see consoles as if when we look at what the console landscape has looked like in the last 20 years, you look at exclusives and you go, oh, that's how you compete. And that's been the only way to really compete when you're Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, right? I think now that you look at Game Pass, now that you have these different problems that even arise when you are making these big budget exclusives, paying $300 million to make games that might make $350 million back, right? Like, how do you go about business in a way that is going to make you as much money as possible, especially as Xbox, who has all these studios, who just bought Activision, spent $69 billion. I think exclusive content is a way to compete. I don't think it's the way to compete, right? I think what you're talking about in terms of, oh yeah, you can buy it on PlayStation if you want to, or you can get it on PC or Switch, or you can get it as part of Xbox Game Pass on our platform. I think that's very, very sound. And a lot of the responses I've gotten back on Twitter and from people,
totally respectful.
Told people being totally respectful and very nice about it. But I see a lot of people being like, oh, but like, I'm going to lose my library. Like, I'm going to lose my Xbox library. Xbox is going to stop making consoles, yada, yada. And I'm like, I think the business is sound, and I still think Xbox is going to make consoles. Like, until they say they're not making consoles, I have to believe they're going to keep making consoles. I think on top of that, not only are they going to keep making consoles, but yeah, like the games are going to be everywhere. Like I can see, like, I guess the downside of I bought my Xbox Series X thinking that this is going to be the only place I could play Halo or Gears. And I think that is the one side where I'm like, I understand that. Like, I understand the idea of you made a choice of I'm going to buy this console, and now you're like, oh man, maybe I should have bought a PlayStation because I can play things here. But even still,
I don't get that argument, because if you were that big of a Gears fan, you were that big of a Halo fan, right? Mm-hmm. You've played those experiences. And so then now we're talking about the nebulous unknown of, okay, well, are they day and date and yada, yada. And again, in the world we live in the fractured video game space we live in currently, to talk about a Halo, to talk about a Gears, on day one, don't you want the largest pool of people playing possible? Right? That's the big thing of, like, we talk about these, not even games as a service, even though you can toss in there. You talk about thriving communities and what you want out of them. You want games and you want matches. So why wouldn't you want them over there and play on whatever box you want to be on, every ecosystem? And again, I'm going to lose my library. Well, no, if you are still there and still invested. And even I think, which I do not think next week's announcement is, but even if next week's announcement was, we are leaving the hardware space, like, we are done, I don't think it's that. First off, it's immediate. I also don't think it would be, we are leaving the hardware space and you're leaving all your games behind. I think it would be that your games are still on the cloud. They're still on Xbox Cloud. They're still part of Xbox Game Pass.
You can still play them on PC. You can still play them on other platforms.
You can play, and through the T. And I would imagine as soon as that happens, and this is a different ball of wax, and it would probably look very different, but I do think you would see them working on getting Game Pass, and I know they already have been, but working on getting Game Pass onto Switch and onto PlayStation. Yeah. Which gets complicated because, of course, then you are into the same thing of, I'm putting it onto PlayStation, but Annapurna is giving us a deal to put their game on Game Pass, but they're also selling the game on PlayStation, so that's sticky in a whole. But I think, again, Game Pass would have to evolve for that landscape. But again, I do not foresee that happening next week. That's not what this is.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think a thing for me too that I've had to wrestle with in terms of talking about this, because, like, you mentioned that you listened to KFAF in the last couple of days and you really enjoyed KFAF. I've very much enjoyed those conversations with me and Tim, because it has been, like, I think us in the same wavelength, not trying to feed into how the internet talks about it or how Twitter talks about it and all this shit, right? I've had like tweets in my mentions of people being mean or whatever, right? And, like, I've had to stop myself one or two times of, I press tweet on a thing, I'm like, I should delete this, right? Because now I'm giving into the console war / tribalism aspect of it.
You get in there and you fight, you can't, you don't win.
And, like, I'm trying to reconcile, like, where does that come from? Like, where does this behavior come from, right? And I'm trying to, I guess, approach it in the most, like, I'm trying to consider everybody's emotions here and everybody's thought processes here, and use it to inform my own, because I think, like, yesterday we talked about, like, all right, like, if 100,000 people really care on the internet, right? But you're as Xbox as a corporation, you're trying to speak to the tens of millions of people that are going to buy your platforms. Like, what do you do with that 100,000? That said, like, that's still a lot of people that care. Like, I know a lot of these people online are being mean or being, like, armchair like quarterbacks or whatever, right? Like, trying to act like they understand the business of Xbox and know how exactly, like, what the CEOs need to do and how to navigate the company. But to some extent that stems from somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out where that stems from and see if there's, like, validity in what I can learn from that, or if I should just leave it alone.
Well, I think you should leave it alone because there's nothing to be done with it. I think, more than anything, when we talk about this or anything like this, picking a sports team, picking a wrestling promotion to follow, picking whatever, where you have to make a choice, you start to talk about investment. And when we talk about business, we talk a lot about return on investment, right? And the reason we see these layoffs, even during profitable years, is the fact that the people who have made their investment want a larger return on that investment. A little bit of profit isn't good. They want a lot of profit, right? And so when you get down to this, I have never been one, and it's actually a little bit hard, I think, too, because of my age. Stick with me. Not because I'm old, but you'll see where I'm going in a second. I've never been one to buy the argument, whether it was at IGN or whether it was that kind of funny of, Greg, you don't understand the value of $60, $70, the price of a console anymore because you get your stuff for free, which for the most part is true. Oftentimes we do have to buy our own stuff, but most of the time is true, right? I don't buy that, but I do understand the argument of when I was a 20-year-old versus when I was a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, whatever it is, right? Where suddenly to have disposable income and the fact that I always talk about, PS2 was my first purchase, my first major purchase on my own, right? And it was that I had the money belt with all the money I earned from Walmart in it to go to Meijer to buy the fucking PlayStation 2, right? That is a choice. When I did that, I bought that. When I was in college eating Easy Mac every night, but still, when I was going to
Easy Mac.
GameStop, and I don't, going to GameStop and flipping games as soon as I beat them I could get the best trade-in value so I could actually keep consuming. I understand that $60 meant something different to me then than it does now, let alone $500 for the new shiny console or whatever. So there's an investment there that you're picking a horse and you're betting on it. And it's the same way, I think, all the way back to when I was a Sega kid and my friends were Nintendo kids, where, I couldn't win the argument with my mom that I needed both the Genesis and the SNES, right? I picked Sega. I was a Sega kid, and that meant blanket statement, Nintendo's bad. You know what I mean? I can only have this, so I can't be on that side of it, right? There's that part of it. And then you get into this investment of your time, your talent, whatever you're doing. And again, not even get into the content creation side, just the time of it. You come home and you've put this much money into that box and you picked it and you thought it was going to be this and it was going to be that and da-da-da-da-da, right? Like there's that argument to it that I don't think is worthy of then this reaction to it. You know what I mean? One of the things here we have a question a super chat from Bobby, who writes in and says, but Xbox players aren't getting PlayStation games. If Xbox games become day and date on PlayStation, then there isn't a point to own an Xbox. First off, again, we said a bunch of different things. That is correct if we were talking about that being the argument, and that actually is what happens next week, and it's not. Yeah, we are going to publish stuff a year later, whatever it is, or not even put a time on it. Later.
Day and date,
yeah, we're going to do it later than day and date. But if they did this, right, there isn't a point to own an Xbox. I disagree, Bobby. There is a point to own an Xbox, and it goes back to the argument I'm currently making, is that Xbox would be the best value in gaming. So now if we're going to sit there and act like the big problem is the investment of money you've put into these platforms, cool. With your Xbox investment, and let's say it's a Series X, so it's the same price as a PS5, and I'm just saying they are, okay? Great. Now, again, we're back to cool. For $9.99 or whatever it is, $14.99 a month now, there's unlimited stream of games and all the brand new stuff, or you need to put $70 into it on your PlayStation to get that. That is the argument Xbox is making. They are doubling down on trying to be the best value in gaming. Now, that can be an argument you don't love. That can be I can get best of both worlds and I would just have to charge. Of course, yeah, that is 100% true that is there. But it's like, that is the thing you have to decide. And then also it's, well, how much are you playing, right? Like for people there's this guy in my neighborhood, right, who's a dad to 2 young girls. And when I first met him when we moved to the neighborhood, he was like, oh yeah, I was talking about video games. He's like, oh man, like I fucking love Fallout. And I was like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah. And it was like, oh yeah, I have a PS4 and da-da-da-da. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So when Starfield dropped, it timed out that we got that Xbox Series S Party Animals drop or whatever, right? And we're often swimming in consoles around here. So I brought it home to him. I got an Xbox code for Game Pass, and I was like, here you go. You get everything. You know what I mean? And like, for that person, are you kidding me right now? This guy who has the most limited time to play video games suddenly has an endless Netflix library of games and this one giant game he wants. Like, that is the value in it. Now we're to pull it back to Bobby and be like, well, PlayStation, what's the point in owning an Xbox? we're talking about two different use cases where there is the mainstream video gamer use case that buys a Starfield and is going to play that for a year and chip away at it. I mean, he's still playing Fallout 4. So 4 years, 5 years, he's going to play Starfield and chip away at it and maybe try a sports game, maybe try this thing. Never, he doesn't even know there's a fucking Prince of Persia game he should be playing, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's all of us that are fucking obsessed with this, that are going to buy every piece of tech and do everything they can and and be really in the weeds about what the pick is. And so it might be that if, to the Bobby question here and what we already kind of pitched on, right? If it was, everything's day and date everywhere, you get it cheap, maybe then it is that for the mainstream, for the hardcore gamer, PlayStation is the way to go. It's stupid not to. If you have the income, why wouldn't you do that? Mm-hmm. And Xbox does become the turnkey. Here's an ecosystem to jump in, and with one monthly purchase, you have all this different stuff. And again, to your point, to bring it all the way back and me to stop ranting, then when you get into, this isn't apples to apples anymore. This isn't who's got the best box anymore. This is who's the best library of service and what is your use case.
Yeah. To bring in another one from Optimus Prime here, who says, there are toxic people with any fandom. How is this any different from sports fans? We all have console preferences. There are Xbox guys, PlayStation guys, etc. And I think for me, this is the thing we talked about a little bit yesterday that I struggle with a little bit in terms of a PlayStation guy, Xbox guy, yada yada. We get looked at as PlayStation guys because we're on PlayStation podcasts. Yeah. We play a lot of PlayStation games. I'm sure, Greg, you'd probably call yourself a PlayStation guy. To some extent.
It's like, are we the character? Of course. Online, of course. Yeah. When I talk about what I actually do, I always describe myself as I got hired to be the beat reporter for PlayStation. Mm-hmm. So the beat reporter for the Chicago Bears knows the Bears inside and out and is a Bears expert. It doesn't mean he's the biggest Bears fan, but of course you dial it back to PlayStation or whatever. Like I was labeled a fan because he's cheerleading, or whoa, he's being too rough, or he's not asking the right question, or he asks too hard a question, whatever.
Yeah, and that's the same place that I'm at, right? Where I get hired to be the beat reporter for PlayStation. That kind of funny, right?
You picked that fucking role. We didn't have to do this goddamn show. We hired you and you said you wanted to do it.
But yeah, that's because growing up, right? I listened to a lot of Beyond, and I listened to a lot of Unlocked, right? And when I'm getting hired at Kind of Funny, I'm like, oh, I want to do Beyond or PS Love You with Greg, right? Like that's the thing I want to do. But that's not to say that, like, I guess when I look at the games that I've played throughout my lifetime, or in the games that I even love, right? Like I bought an Xbox One and I love playing Forza Horizon. That's like one of my favorite racing series, right alongside Burnout, right? I love playing. I'm a big Bethesda person. I love playing the Doom games. I love playing Arcane games. I love playing Bethesda Studios games, right? And so like I'm in that ecosystem for that. But even while I had my Xbox One, right, I was playing so much fucking Rare Replay. When we look at like the PlayStation guy versus Xbox guy thing, right? I understand the perception of us being PlayStation guys because like that's our beat. That's what we talk about. We play those games, all that stuff. But if I wasn't on a PlayStation podcast and I wasn't like, I guess my thing is I think the label of calling somebody a PlayStation guy or an Xbox guy to say, oh, but you can't talk about the other thing because you don't get it, because you don't own this box, because you don't. I look at myself as also just somebody who plays games and wants to talk about games and loves video games, right? And so like I'm on KFGD every day. Or not every day, but I'm on KFGD probably most days out of the week. I prep the show every single day. I read virtually every news story that video game news story that's come out in like the last since I got hired here, hours, right? I feel like for me that qualifies me to talk about video games, period, and not talk about just a specific platform and be locked into that platform. To the fandom thing of there are different fandoms and different things, I understand it like half and half. Where first, when we talk about sports, that's what sports is about. Sports is about fandom. Sports is about rooting for your favorite team. Sports is about people competing against each other. For video games, I think to some extent, I definitely understand it, right? Again, like video games are about fun. Video games are about like, playing as the characters you love and like investing in an ecosystem and all that stuff. So I understand how we grow that and how that becomes a thing. But I think when you're talking about the entertainment space and the way that we talk about it, right? Like, I don't know people that are like HBO Max diehards, right? Or like, I'm a fucking Hulu diehard, or like, I go hard for the new fucking like Sony Blu-ray player. Like, I'm ride or die for this thing. PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo Switch to some extent are just technologies, right? And like these are companies that are making these things. They're not sports teams that are playing with each other. So I definitely understand being a Xbox fan because you played a lot of Xbox games, or being a PlayStation fan because you played a lot of PlayStation games. I've called myself a PlayStation, yesterday on the show I called myself a PlayStation / Nintendo fan for the fact that I grew up playing a lot of those games.
Sure.
But I think that fandom for me ends when we're talking about like the businesses and like how these things are operating as corporations. That's where like my jurisdiction ends, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like these are also just corporations that I'm not here trying to root for.
More
like
than ever, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
More than ever, they're just boxes. We're playing everything on anything. And it's like, I think the toughest part, right, especially we talk about being beat reporters, and that's obviously fallen away throughout the years, let alone me, transitioning to a host, let alone starting Kind of Funny and being more agnostic than ever, right? I still prefer to play on PlayStation just because I gravitate towards first-party games from PlayStation often more. Also, they publish video games a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of games that only come to PlayStation. And I like my trophies and all that jazz. There's a little bit, yeah. But it's like,
But there's also the extent of you've been a part of that ecosystem for a long time.
Of course, and that's the thing. I have roots there, but it's like, I played so much Starfield. I played a lot of Redfall, and I wish that would have been better. I'm playing Pokemon now. It's all these different things. And I think, more than ever, I'm just playing games everywhere. You're seeing the effects of that right now on our podcasts, right, of where the industry actually is. Where it's like, guess what? There are so many great fucking games right now that PS I Love You and XCast are doing reviews of multi-platform games because the Gamescast was already taken up that week, so it only makes sense we put it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and again, I as a person who's like sitting there with the games calendar and headlines, understand more than ever that it's like how close we're getting to the Simpsons, like Duff Dry, Duff Light, and it's all coming out of the same pipe into three different things, and it's like it's just where we're at. That the conversation on PlayStation last week about Banishers, right? Of like, yo, did you see this game? How like. Yeah, that could have applied to Xbox as well and an industry thing, but that's also a conversation that's happening with PlayStation right now more than what are we doing leading up to Helldivers or what's going on here? Like, you know what I mean? Like that stuff finds its all. Like that's where we are right now as an ecosystem
to the question
of gamers.
Going back to the question that Bobby wrote in with, right, talking about like, why would I get an Xbox if Xbox games are coming to other places? I feel like that's the same with PlayStation, isn't it? When we talk about PC, like I understand Xbox to PlayStation versus PlayStation to PC is an entirely different thing. But if you want to play every game under the sun, except for Nintendo games, you can just buy a PC.
Allegedly.
Allegedly
you can play Tears of the Kingdom in 4K.
Right? Like if you're looking at this Xbox thing as it's going to have, like Starfield is going to come to PlayStation a year later, or Indiana Jones is going to come to PlayStation months later. That's how PlayStation games come to PC a year later or 2 years later or months later, whatever it is, right? And like probably day and date for some of the live service stuff. I feel like, to your point of everything is coming out of the same bucket into like the same thing, right? Like it's all becoming homogenous in a way where, like I don't think you're competing with just content anymore. And I think when you're looking at just exclusive content as the only way to compete, that's how we get into the fanboy things of like we got Spider-Man and this and Uncharted, so we're better than the people that have Halo and shit. And it's like, first of all, who gives a fuck? But then also I can play Spider-Man on my PC. Like, why do we care that much about which box is getting a better thing? And so I don't know. It's been wild for me to like watch Twitter and the internet in the last 4 days blow up about this stuff.
Well, especially for me being on the outside, like reading the stuff and then listening to the show, and then like come on Twitter and see the meltdowns from people. I'm like, really? You don't even know what's happening yet. Why are you so mad?
Yeah.
Bless Netflix. We got live action One Piece. Screw you and your stupid HBO Max fan
Succession,
base.
Barrett. I don't even watch Succession.
It's a good show. You should watch it.
I know I should.
It's really good. Yeah.
I'm too busy on
I
Netflix.
hear you with the HBO Max thing, but it like the the real. No,
that was the only comparison that came to my mind immediately.
Well, it's because it's
like
not
content.
again. It's so hard, right? Because it would be like if Regal Cinema only showed Sony movies. You know what I mean? But like even that's not right because that's a one-off.
That's the thing is like are the I guess when you look at movies, right, and like you didn't have DVD players that only play certain DVDs, right? And so like people aren't forming these like fandoms around the Sony DVD player versus the Magnavox.
And that's
DVD.
why there's just so much money to the investment back to it.
Yeah.
It's how much money you put into a thing and go from there. So we will wait and see next week. But for now, speaking of Spider-Man, today let's tackle the fact that Spider-Man 2 is getting a long-awaited update. It was rough. Cyberpunk 2 has some news and so much more because this is Kind of Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy video game news you need to know about live on YouTube, Twitch, and podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, please support us with a Kind of Funny membership either on Patreon or YouTube to get all of our shows ad-free, to watch us record the podcast live as we record them, and of course to get my daily exclusive show, Greg Way. which for the first time in 2024, I missed an episode yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, it was too. I was driving home and I was like, crap. And I don't have my microphone because I had brought my microphone in.
You should have texted me. I would have done it.
Yeah, it was already late. So then I was like, do I want to text Cool Greg? And then Tim called me for business. And then I was home. And then it was like, Ben did not go to bed easy last night. So I was like, you know what? I'll just give a longer one today. It'll be fine. For a chance to be part of this show live as we record it, remember to get your questions, thoughts, and comments in as YouTube Super Chats, just like Onimus Prime has and Bobby has. Some housekeeping for you. Our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth preview is up as a Kind of Funny Gamescast right now featuring AEW's Adam Cole.
Yuck.
Yuck.
Do you actually spit?
No. You can get it on youtube.com/kindoffunny. And of course, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. This says youtube.com/kindoffunnygamescast. That's not right?
No. Kind of Funny Gamescast? Yeah, it's a new link we're working out.
I was like, that doesn't. You didn't do something funny. youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, of course, Gamescast podcast feed around the globe.
Adam Cole, cool guy.
Adam Cole's awesome.
Yeah.
He's also on the live reacts to the PlayStation State of Play about Final Fantasy yesterday.
Huge Final Fantasy VII fan. Had a lot of great stories.
Yeah. There's 2 new drops for the Kind of Funny merch store. The Kind of Funny broadcast and the Cozy collection are available for the next 2 weeks on kindoffunny.com/store. Grab them while you can. I've been wearing the sweatshirt and sweatpants at home and enjoying myself quite a bit, I'll tell you.
I really like the sweatshirt.
It's really good. KFAF is coming back on February 9th as part 2 of our anniversary stream. The Photoshop challenge theme is the future. Tweet your Photoshops at Kind of Funny Vids with the hashtag KFAF to join in on the fun. What I found interesting about this is that Nick hijacked the 2nd anniversary stream. We have done no promotion saying, hey, the big stream is on Friday. We just keep saying KFAF is back on Friday as part of a big stream we're doing. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Be here. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs, Streakin' Ain't Easy, and Delaney Twanning. Today we're brought to you by the new Kind of Funny merch. And why don't we tell you about it right now?
This episode is brought to you by kindoffunny.com/store. We've got 2 brand new drops for you this week. First, check out the Kind of Funny broadcast line. Old School Telethons inspired this distressed design and collection for our annual Kind of Funny Day campaign, which includes a t-shirt, tote bag, and coffee cup. Our Cozy collection, designed by Nick at Campfire Designs, is also available. Get nice and snuggly in your choice of a crew neck sweatshirt and joggers and a women's cropped hoodie. These have been big hits with the team, and we think you'll love them too. Both collections are available for the next 2 weeks on kindoffunny.com/store. Grab them while you can.
Close-up gets really close to Andy's crotch. You know what I mean? On that Kind of Funny merch thing.
Oh, I was looking down my phone. I missed it. Barrett, can you pull up B-roll? I got to check this out myself.
Let's start with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news. 5 items on the Roper Report.
A baker's dozen.
Number 1, New Game Plus is finally coming to Spider-Man 2. Insomniac Games tweets, ! Our next update is coming March 7th. Our title update for Marvel's Spider-Man 2 PS5 arrives next month and adds the highly requested features like New Game Plus, new suits, and more. Watch our social media for the complete list of features closer to release. Spiderweb, Spider, #be greater.
What are your thoughts on New Game Plus coming out this late? Because I've had these discussions with Tim quite a bit on this show, and Tim's not a fan. Tim's like, this is a New Game Plus feels like a feature that should be coming out day and date. For you now that we're, 4 months, 5 months past the release of Spider-Man 2? No way it's been that long. October 22nd is when that game came out.
Yeah, so it'll be coming up on 5 months with the New Game Plus.
It's almost half a year. Time flies. Now that we're this far out from it, like, are you gonna go back to New Game Plus?
Well, it's a great question. If it is just New Game Plus, period, absolutely not. I'm not even that big of a New Game Plus fan to begin with, right? What gets me going is new suits and more. So what does that exactly mean, right? Like, how many suits? How are we unlocking them? And what is the more? Is it going to be like we've talked about, like, oh man, they found a lot of success in the gliding challenge, right? So did we put a bunch more stuff like that in there? Is this going to come with some new side missions? Like, not paying off in giant cinematics or anything, but just things to go do. Like, that would bring me back if it was like, hey, we've done even more in this. And I expect over time they will continue to add that way. I think personally, I have no inside information. I just think that's how they'll support this game rather than do like City Never Sleeps kind of thing. And if they were to drop that kind of thing, sure, yeah. New Game Plus in general, no, I'm not that guy. To Tim's point, it seems too little too late or whatever, or it should have been there at launch. I think Insomniac probably agrees with him that it should have been there at launch. I don't think this was probably on the roadmap. I think this was probably a fuck. something's got to give. We need to finish the game. So punt New Game Plus. Let's finish the game, get it where it needs to be, and get it out.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right about like the idea of maybe new activities or new things to do or new side missions, because I look at this, I'm like, okay, New Game Plus, new suits, and for me, in the way that I play games and the way I played Spider-Man 2, I've already 100% Spider-Man 2. I got the platinum.
Hell yeah,
New Game Plus isn't a thing that's gonna bring me back, and so if I'm not back for New Game Plus, why would I even care about new suits if I'm just gonna go around and do the crime activities? If they added new activities, that for me is a genuine reason to actually pick up the game and go back and like find these new suits and rock these new suits. But yeah, like I don't know, man. I think I like the idea of a City That Never Sleeps type DLC. I don't think they're ever gonna do one again because I don't know how successful City That Never Sleeps was.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think I'm in the place where I don't expect new activities. I don't really expect them to add like new side missions or whatever. Like I think this is what it is.
Yeah. I'm hopeful it'll be more. I think one of my things is that I think since this took so long, I think they probably, when they knew it wasn't going to hit, they wanted. Insomniac seems to over deliver, and I think that they knew, oh man, this is going to be disappointment when we come out. We should have something that's more enticing than just New Game Plus. And I think of like when they were doing. When they did the Raimi suit for Spider-Man 1, right? And it came after everybody made a huge stink and was a bunch of assholes about it. But it was like, yeah, we've been quietly working on this. We were trying to give you something cool. Like, I would imagine that's still the idea here.
Yeah.
That, hey, we're working on something and we want to give you something cool. What is the thing they're pairing with it? What is the more? I guess we'll have to wait and see. However, Missing Link 000 writes in on Twitch and says, I still can't believe I did everything there was in Spider-Man after such a long wait. The game just came and went. Blessing? Is that a bad thing?
I think it just depends on the kind of player you are, because I kind of feel that like that game did kind of come and go for me, right? Like I put in the 25 hours into that game, finished everything, and just moved on with my life, and I've not thought that hard about Spider-Man 2 since. Now, I think compared to other people on the panel when we reviewed it, right? Like I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think everybody else gave it a 5 out of 5. That's and right. So I don't know if the game hit for me as strongly as it did for like you and Tim.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I was like, yeah, cool. And I don't think it's invalid for a game to be structured that way. Like, I think it's fine for a game to be structured in a way where it does have an endpoint even after completing it. Well, the thing I keep talking about with Spider-Man 2 is that I kind of wish they had certain activities that are more repeatable. Like, the only repeatable activities they have are the Mysterio stuff and then the like random crimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I wish there was like something else here. I wish there were more like stealth challenges or some type of content that I can come back to and feel like I'm getting a bit more out of it. But yeah, I don't think it's an inherently bad thing, but I understand if you're a player that was like, oh man, I waited years for this and I beat it and now I'm on to the next thing. But maybe that just means that Spider-Man 2 isn't as strongly of a contender for you.
It's an interesting argument that I really think falls into the having your cake and eating it too conversation, where we can't roll our eyes and get fucking furious when Sony's like, we're gonna make 13 live service games because we want you to be here all the time. We can't get furious when a game's filled with fluff because they want you to stick in it longer. We can't get mad when, as we're talking right now, of like, oh, it's so homogenous, the PlayStation, Xbox ecosystems, right? And it's because, of course, Sony first parties and Xbox too, but are taking longer and longer to make these games. So if the trade-off is from Insomniac, yep, we can be the Sony first party that fucking makes games and puts out games.
Yeah.
And it's going to be years of a wait, but you're going to get it and it's going to be great. And we're all going to talk, for the most part, that all the side missions hit and it was packed full to the gills with stuff that you enjoyed and liked, but it's done in a weekend. Or we can add 2 more years on it and it keeps going and maybe it isn't as, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's it honestly speaks back a little bit to something somebody called me out on for Outriders, when we were talking about Outriders, where I said something similar of like, oh yeah, that came and we did that for 2 weeks and it came and went kind of thing. And somebody popped up like, but is that a bad thing? Like, that's what they designed that game to be, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, I am actually part of the problem if I'm talking that way and not acknowledging that that's how it was. I don't think Spider-Man needs to reverberate for 6 months of just, and the fact that Venom turned out to be a Nazi. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, that's what I was going to bring up. I mean, not Venom being a Nazi, but the idea of
straight up racist Venom.
Yeah, but the idea of when I think about other PlayStation first-party games, right? Like I look at God of War or let's say Last of Us Part 2 as examples. I feel like, like I finished God of War, I finished Last of Us Part 2, and I didn't go back and like pick them back up and do more, right?
Yeah.
I know with God of War, a lot of people went back and did like Valkyrie challenges and stuff.
Yeah,
There is content there, but I think in terms of like story and in terms of like what that did for people narratively, right?
Yeah.
Like it stuck around. Like
Sure.
I feel like 6 months
I
after
still
God of
quote
War,
the grief quote and all that stuff from God
Yeah.
of War, right? And I can talk about these moments where I cried or did this. or
whereas
did that.
Spider-Man 2, like I'm not staying up at night thinking about Venom, you know, like I'm not.
But even then, I mean, my not even counter argument, but I would contest of like, well, yeah, but I mean, like, and I love the genre, both film, comic books, but I mean, superhero genre. Are we really getting rocked by superhero stuff often? Where it's like, I can't fucking believe, and I'm still talking about. I mean, Invincible, I guess, like in a more mainstream area now of like the subway stuff and yada yada. But it's like, even
I
then,
think
it's like,
that's, I think that's fair, but I also
Yeah.
think that, you know, again, this comes back to our S tier, A tier conversation that we always have with
does.
Insomniac and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
other studios, where I think because of that staying power, I look at a Last of Us or I look at a God of War as like oh man, these are S tier because these are, you put these on the echelon of, oh, these are games that stick around. This is the game that a decade from now I'm still gonna be talking about, right? Whereas like Spider-Man 2, fantastic video game, but yeah, like it came and went. Like I played it, I finished it, I did all the activities, and it didn't really have the moments for me to make me go, oh man, 10 years from now, Spider-Man 2 is gonna be that game that I tell everybody is like one of the greatest ever. It's like, and it doesn't have to be, right? Like,
yeah, and not
your
every
point,
game needs to be that.
I think there's a certain thing where that is the genre, right? But like, I guess for you to counter your counter, is there a superhero game that could do that could come out and be that? Like, do we argue that Batman Arkham Asylum is that, or do we put that in the same thing of Batman Arkham Asylum came and went? Because I don't feel like that series came and went, or those games came and went.
You think Arkham came and went?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood. So no, I don't put them in that thing. I think maybe as you went on, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like we look at Arkham Knight as fondly as we did.
I think
City.
Arkham
Oh my
Knight,
god,
you
in
can maybe make
Arkham
the
Asylum.
argument that
But
it
that
came
was
and went.
again like really shaking it up of like, yo, IP games don't have to suck, right, Barrett?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And
Also,
what you're
Arkham
shaking your
Knight's
head
the
at what my comment that Arkham Knight isn't looked as fondly.
I know. I'm.
Oh yeah, I forget you're an Arkham Knight sicko.
Yeah, I think it's the best one. People are just fucking babies about the Batmobile.
That sucks.
But it's like, you know, why am I driving a tank?
But like but to
Yo,
bring it back
strafe
to,
around and shoot this shit forever. Oh my god, please.
to bring it back to Spider-Man, like
Yeah.
I would argue that Spider-Man 2 is probably the most refined of the three that have come out so far. But I think 1 and Miles Morales have more like staying power when like just thinking back on them, you know. And so I think there is something to that where I don't think those games came and went, maybe a little bit Miles Morales, but that's also because it launched with the PS5 and there was so much going on.
That's true. Spider-Man 1 did kind of have that staying power.
It did have that staying power.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
So we
see.
all agree that Spider-Man 2 it's a terrible video game.
I mean, I'm honestly gonna go delete our review and put up a new one.
Let's fucking go.
1 out of 5. You know what I mean? Number 2 on the Roper Report. Let's talk about another game and another sequel. Maybe Cyberpunk 2077 sequel hires industry veterans. This is Michael Kripe at IGN.com. CD Projekt Red is gearing up for its Cyberpunk 2077 follow-up, codenamed Project Orion. And it's starting by bringing on developers with some impressive resumes. The Witcher studio announced its new moves in a press release, marking a major milestone as it moves on from its dystopian RPG and its Phantom Liberty DLC. These next steps include a few, quote, high-profile additions to the staff, including developers with experience on franchises like Hitman, Diablo, Mortal Kombat, Dishonored, and more. First on the list is Dan Hernberg, who is jumping on Project Orion as executive producer. His experience includes serving as head of production at Amazon Games and lead product manager at Blizzard Entertainment. Ryan Barnard, who help as a design director, is best known for working on the game director at Ubisoft Massive and gameplay director at IO Interactive. The engineering director spot will be handled by Alan Vellini, who previously aided with technical direction on past Mortal Kombat games. Former Control, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora developer Anna McGill will serve on Project Orion as lead writer. And finally, Alexander Freed will also help with writing after previously working with studios like DICE, Obsidian Entertainment, and Wizards of the Coast. Details on Cyberpunk 2077 sequel, which is being developed at CD Projekt Red's Boston location, are scarce. But we do know some information about what the team has up its sleeve. One idea floating around is multiplayer, a feature absent from the original game that the studio is now, quote unquote, considering.
See, I would ask
you not to consider that, CD Projekt.
See, that
please.
last part I think is fascinating.
Stop.
Because like, yeah, if I like for what the landscape looks like right now, don't do multiplayer. Like that is a bad idea. But come on, man, GTA Online, you see what that did. I know, you know for a fact they're looking at that and being like,
They are not. Not look at that and do that.
Cyberpunk is basically just fucking like Cyberpunk GTA, right? Like it is
Sure.
first person GTA practically. But what do we?
Every time
what
you
if we
do
wanted to
these
make a
kind of
GTA
games,
Online?
and I feel like you talk, and I shouldn't say these kind of games, but when I think of this, and I'm thinking of like every Far Cry, or some some jabroni, and we go fucking hunt a turkey, and it's like, guys, why? Like, don't fuck up the narrative. Like Cyberpunk was all about the narrative, right? And what we're doing is V and Johnny Silverhand, and this very personal thing.
But like, what if we're hanging out at the home? What if me and you are in the same like instance, right?
Is Johnny talking to both of us? Hey,
Well, no,
V's.
we're the created characters. That is not Johnny. It's some other celebrity. I don't know. Justin Bieber is like appearing to us and like talking to us. But we like I get a call from Pan Am, and Pan Am has a mission for me because I'm part of her faction out in like the wasteland or whatever.
You don't have to get this much in the weeds, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, all right, cool. We got to kill a bunch of thugs, but like they all had cybernetics.
No, don't do this.
No?
No.
In a world
And it'll be
where
the same thing where I stop and I'm trying to hack from the outside and you just run in. And I'm like, well, fuck, that's what we're doing.
in
now.
a world where Cyberpunk 2077 launched successfully,
flawlessly.
and we were 4 years into Cyberpunk 2077 hype, and like the IP is on fire in a good way, right? Like they're killing it, and yeah, like the DLC just dropped and we all love it. I think I would be gung ho, like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, let's make a multiplayer thing. I can't wait for this. I think coming off of Cyberpunk 2077 in 2020, where it launched as a trash fire, you took years to finally get it back to where it needed to be, and you finally launched DLC that people love and do all this stuff. Yeah, let's take this one step at a time. Like, let's maybe put multiplayer on hold until we launch the next Cyberpunk, make sure it's a success first, and then like work on the multiplayer. Like, I think that ground floor, that foundation needs to be solid. Maybe they're looking at the current Cyberpunk as like, well, this is a solid foundation that we need to now build on top of. But I think you need to build up even a little bit more of goodwill, not even just goodwill, because I think they have the goodwill, but build up just like a new Cyberpunk game launch that is good from the get-go, that is strong, and then give us that multiplayer. Eventually, I do want a Cyberpunk multiplayer because I think that could be a really cool
if you're
game.
gonna do multiplayer, I feel like you have to have it at launch, and it's a core tenet, and that's what the game is. Like, I don't want. I can go play it all single player, yada yada, or we can all get together with our characters who are having the same thing, but do it like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do that, I feel like it's got to be. We are creating a character, and whatever job class, whatever you pick is like, you're not doing the V thing, but like you're trying to take over the city or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder, like, they were supposed to do multiplayer for Cyberpunk 2077, and that got canceled because obviously, like, the game wasn't that great when it came out. I wonder if this is the fulfillment of that dream or that idea or whatever. Like, I wonder if they just been doing this on this for a while.
Don't do it. Okay. It just seems like when we get a franchise or maybe even a universe we love, but we add in multiplayer, it all goes. Number 3, Suicide Squad's main villain might be the next playable character. This is Zach over at Kotaku. Is that really the right headline? Because I thought we were going a different way with this story, but we'll find out as we read it. While playing WB Games' new co-op shooter, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, a player was knocked down by enemies mid-fight. They then heard something they probably were not meant to hear, the name of the game's next playable character. And you can't blame data miners or leakers for this slip-up. Instead, it's all villain Brainiac's fault. So yeah, I think it was that. I think Suicide Squad's main villain might have given away the next playable character.
Yeah, I switched up the headline, but the actual headline is Suicide Squad's main villain accidentally leaked the next playable character.
So now we're going to go into a bit of spoilers here. Actually, let's just do a lot of spoilers. Do any of you fucking care about the Suicide Squad? Beyond dragging it and beating it through the street?
I almost
watched. Because let me tell you, I'm ready to beat the shit out of this fucking thing.
I've not gotten to play Suicide Squad.
You're fine.
Yeah,
Why do you say that like you're planning to?
Everybody in chat saying no. I missed the question you just asked.
Does anyone care?
Oh, does anyone care? Okay.
Nope, don't. Yeah, blah.
Yeah, right.
I will put a time code below just in case.
I almost watched like the ending cutscene to Suicide Squad just out of curiosity because people are talking about this game a lot.
We're going to keep reading now, and then I'm going to go off probably on what the end game is for Suicide Squad. As spotted by PC Gamer, a recent Reddit post on the Suicide Squad subreddit shows a short gameplay clip of someone playing as Harley Quinn. The person playing gets knocked down and needs to be revived. At this point, Brainiac, who eventually starts talking to players once they reach the end of the main game, starts to insult Harley. Well, he tries, but instead he says, quote, "I didn't expect you to be the weak link in this chain Freeze, end quote.
Whoa.
Brainiac is accidentally referencing Mr. Freeze, a famous Batman villain who has appeared in the Arkham games before. While we already knew that the Joker was coming to the game in the next season, Rocksteady has not yet revealed who the next playable characters would be, likely wanting to tease them over time. But based on the roadmap the studio put out ahead of Suicide Squad's release, which shows an icy world and character silhouette, it seems likely that Freeze, probably an alternate version of the villain, will be added to the shooter in Season 2.
What's with all these alternate versions of people?
So,
because I saw like the Joker or something was supposed to be a playable thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't leaked, right? Like, that was just they talked about.
They came out and said that.
But
They
like
wanted to get
in
ahead
the
of that.
Arkham universe, like didn't the Joker die like 5 games
So
ago?
let me tell you about a truly unique concept that DC Comics has, and it's called the multiverse.
Well, I thought that was a Marvel thing.
No.
Whoa,
And it's not
that's
just an
crazy.
Invincible thing either. It's
You
everybody's
told me
thing.
Doctor Strange didn't invent the multiverse?
No, he didn't invent the
That's
multiverse.
crazy.
So, spoilers, just full. We're just going right. That you go to Earth 2 in Suicide Squad the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring a Lex back from that universe after your Lex gets killed or whatever. You are firmly planted in the Arkhamverse. You are correct.
Gotcha.
Joker is dead. He died, of course, at the end of Arkham City, and then
Yeah.
Arkham Knight had a whole plot thread about that, right? So Mark Hamill's Joker is dead in the Arkhamverse. The Joker you're going to be bringing in from an Elseworlds, because that's what
Yeah.
DC. Okay, is
watch
going to
Arrow.
be okay. Great, thank you. You do.
Yeah.
I like that. I appreciate that about you. It's going to be a different Joker. It's not that Joker. It's from that. But this is the whole hook of Suicide Squad's Endgame, is that after you beat Brainiac, it turns out that it's 13 Brainiacs working in conjunction across the multiverse. So you will need to then go beat 13 different Brainiacs from these different Elseworlds.
Yo,
It's
that's fucking sick.
We are fucking bankrupt on ideas.
And so
Yo, what if we
you
made
might
13
think, you might sit
boss
there and
fights?
say, wow, they're going to make me do the Brainiac fight 13 times.
That's
Let me
insane.
tell you what Brainiac did when you fought him in the game here.
Uh-huh.
He said, I'm going to switch things up and I'm going to be the Flash. And so you did the Flash boss fight again, but this time it was Brainiac. Yeah.
You're lying.
And so then now you got to go protect this car a few dozen more times to get the currency to then be able to go after. And I mean, you'll do the car, but you'll also fight people on the rooftop. And then I'm sure you have to take out the tank with the legs again. And I'm sure when I get to the next Brainiac, he'll probably, you know what, I'm going to do different this time. I'm going to be
people are
Superman this
arguing
time.
that this is a good game.
Yeah.
We are creatively bankrupt. Wrap it up.
That's
Wrap it
cool.
up,
That's
man.
insane.
No
So-
more video games.
It was that thing of like again, the story's fun and interesting and yada yada yada. When I got to the end of that and got revealed that end game, it was just such a, oh my god, I can't fucking believe this is what we're doing here or whatever. Like this is what, and like I hold out hope that Earth, the third Earth or fourth Earth, is really gonna be cool. That when they introduce the Joker, he's gonna be a good interpretation. I just fucking deleted the game. I was like, I'm good. I don't need to do this.
I've been so media blackout on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. So like I am hearing a lot of this for the first time.
Kyle Nelson tries to be a hero
Same.
and says, Greg, tell us about the Diablo 4 mechanics again. I mean, tell you about Diablo 4, Division 2, Avengers, what games, Destiny, this is such a paper thin argument people have thrown at me before of just like, oh yeah, yes, every game loop is going to repeat things and do things, especially these games that are looter shooters, whatever.
Yeah.
The flash fight wasn't fun the first time. The moment-to-moment combat of the Suicide Squad is not fun the 300th time. Like, the guns don't matter. Like, there's just nothing happening
And to
here.
frame it around, it's always just going to be Brainiac is also just like what? That's just like a weird framing to.
Well, it sounds like sometimes it's the Flash.
We'll see. I mean, who knows what they'll do as they go, but
Also, like someone else was saying, like it's at least it's not as bad as Gotham Knights. I will say at least Gotham Knights, like their story consequences actually fucking mattered, and then they didn't try to do a multiverse thing where it's like, oh no, just kidding.
So the way
well, that's the whole thing about this is like people keep. I still am of the mind that when this is all said and done, when it ends the way they planned it, or they rush an ending because nobody cares about this fucking game, like I don't think they're gonna do like we brought the Justice League back from that other universe, or hey, guess what? This was a very similar multiverse to the Arkhamverse you knew, but your Arkhamverse is still over there.
See, I was gonna say,
like, I don't think they're gonna do that because that would be even more insulting than it already is.
Are we not ever gonna get an Arkham game again?
No, I honestly like,
which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I would rather there be a spiritual successor to Arkham or like a Batman Beyond type of game. That's
100%.
something I've been wanting for a long time. I personally don't want like a Batman Arkham game personally anymore, especially with the passing of Kevin Conroy. Like, he was the animated series Batman. He was the Arkham Batman. Like, I don't want them to like, oh, just kidding, here's a fourth game and it takes place like a year after Arkham Knight or some shit, you know? So
it's going to be fascinating. So like, just even remove myself from just not having enjoyed this game, right? But being a DC fan, and then just also us talking about these things. I'm so interested to see what the next 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months look like. Because we don't know how it's sold. You know, Steam concurrents are bad, but who fucking knows? That doesn't matter. Reviews have been middling. There is a whole bunch of people who are championing it being so. It's like, number one, can they add in villains that eventually, because my thing is like it's the same fucking missions over and over again. It seems like there's 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
You jump ahead 3 content drops. If each one came with 2 more missions, right? That's suddenly 10 missions. Maybe it isn't as glaring of like, I'm protecting the van. I'm shooting the fucking legs. I'm going, you know what I mean? Maybe it's something more interesting there. Fill the world with more cool things to do. Make the guns actually different or matter. Like, can they get it to a place where in 6 months, a year, I'm coming back, I'm like, oh man, there is some really cool shit to do here, blah, blah, blah. Is WB that committed to it? Because remember, fucking Crystal and IMX they had a whole bunch of plans they wanted to do for fucking Marvel's Avengers and where they wanted to go, and that all got knocked off and done, and let's just get away from this. Like, is this going to perform that poorly that WB looks at this and goes, fuck it? You know what I mean? How can we force this? Because you can't. Again, it's like they've
Are there
committed
enough people
13 fucking brainiacs.
Like, just anecdotally, from playing the game and just seeing conversation online, like, is it gonna have the staying power? Like, are there people?
And that's
what are the concurrents gonna look like?
Those are my questions for doing all that stuff. And it's the same thing then of like, cool, what does this do to Rocksteady? That's the other, like, you know, terrifying thing we exist in this media landscape of, okay, cool, layoffs and this and that, and you're only as good as your last project. So it's like, what the fuck does this mean for them? What does it mean to WB's commitment to them? I don't like anything I'm seeing. So I'm not wishing ill will on anybody involved. I want them to turn it around. I'd love in a year to be like, fuck, this is actually good now. They've done X, Y, and Z, and it's got its cyberpunk thing and yada, yada, yada. I doubt it. I doubt it, but we'll see. Number 4. Capcom survey asked players if they want to see sequels or remakes of lapsed series. This is Chris Sculling at VGC. A new Capcom survey asked players if they want to see sequels or remakes of certain current and old series. The Super Election survey, which is found on the publisher's Capcom Town website, asked 10 questions about various aspects of Capcom. One of the questions asked, quote, are there any Capcom game series, including spin-off games, that you would like to see get a sequel or a new game? The following 20 options are given, many of which are series that haven't seen a new entry in some time, with the player asked to choose 3. It goes like this. Darkstalkers.
Yes.
Okami.
Yes.
Onimusha. Ace Attorney. Street Fighter. Sengoku Barasa. Dino Crisis. Dead Rising. Devil May Cry. Dragon's Dogma. Toraware no Paruma. Versus Capcom. Resident Evil. Final Fight. Breath of Fire. Ghosts and Goblins, Monster Hunter, Lost Planet, Mega Man in 1942. The survey then asked, quote, is there any game you would like to see completely remade with the latest technology, including characters, including characters, design, and story direction? This section gives the following 9 options as potential remake candidates, with the player asked to choose the one they would like to see the most. Onimusha, 1 through 3. Ace Attorney, 1 through 3. Commando, Rival Schools, Banana, Niji Roach,
Niji Rosho.
Ninja Rosho, no Kiseki, Final Fight, Breath of Fire 1 through 3, Gargoyle's Quest 1 and 2, Mega Man 1 through 3. While the survey doesn't mean any of these sequels or remakes are actively in development, it does imply that Capcom is seeking feedback from its audience before it decides which projects are worth pursuing next.
So in that first list, which 3 are you choosing? Get a sequel or a new game?
Okay, so Onimusha.
That's your number 1. Did you play Onimusha?
I'm going right down the line. Okay. I did. I played the original, not to fruition, but I enjoyed enough of it, and I would like to see a modern thing, right? So I would go, and this is a sequel or a new one?
Yeah.
Shit. I'm going to go, I know I'm going to regret this. Onimusha, the one I'll regret, Dead Rising, and then I'll put in Monster Hunter. Obviously, you know how much I love Monster Hunter. Onimusha for Tim. Dead Rising number 1, a game I adored.
Yeah.
And I think I've reviewed maybe number 4, maybe. No, I did. I've definitely reviewed them at IGN. I think off the record, maybe even 2. It doesn't matter. That's one that I would love to see. We're making Dead Rising again, and we're throwing everything out the fucking window, and we're starting fresh. And what does a modern zombie mall game looks like? We're making Dawn of the Dead. What do we fucking do here, right? Like, let's go that way rather than what they've done is being so tied up in it's fucking Frank West and it's this and it's we got to have this and you got to let's blow it all up, start from scratch. I'd love to see that. So,
yeah.
What about you?
See, the thing that's tough is I look at something like Street Fighter and it's like, well, we just got Street Fighter 6 or Monster Hunter's like we have a new Monster Hunter already announced. So do I choose that or I do?
Hey man, I want to make sure I get a new Monster Hunter, so I picked it.
That's fair. I'm gonna go Okami for the Okami fans. I actually never played Okami, but I know it's the kind of game that I would enjoy.
Yeah,
and I know how
you love dogs.
Like exactly. And I know how much that fan base loves that game. So I'm gonna go Okami.
You would love Okami.
I definitely would.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Versus Capcom for sure. I'm gonna go versus
100%.
Capcom. And then just for shits and giggles, Lost Planet. Just to see what a Lost Planet would look like in 2024. Like I think I enjoyed playing Lost Planet 2. Like that was one of the first third person shooter co-op games I remember playing with a friend that generation and being like, oh man, these games are cool, right? And it was like on PlayStation 3. I didn't have access to something like Gears or anything. So like Lost Planet was sort of my entry point into that, and I really enjoyed it. And then also I think you could take that and make like a really cool version of what that is in 2024.
Barrett, I just put in assets. Anytime the yes is something that was there for something else. I apologize. But anytime we talk about this, I know people probably it's an old story, but I love anytime Okami comes around. Just talking about when they put it out on Wii finally, and they used the box art from IGN so that they actually sold a copy that had the IGN watermark on it. That story will never not be awesome.
Where's the IGN watermark?
It's circled in a circle there. Yeah.
God. Can we zoom? Give me an enhance. Oh my
God. That made it to
God.
store shelves.
That's
I
so
love that
funny.
so fucking much. Amazing that no one caught that.
All right, cool. We did it.
We did it.
Bring it
Also,
back.
Greg, thank you for playing the banana very straight.
You're welcome.
Oh, dude, I was legitimately like banana.
I saw it and I was like, I'm not expert enough on Capcom games.
I was like, I didn't know Capcom had a game called. In my head, I was like, is that like a monkey ball?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That was a really good one.
I'm sick of bananas though, and all this big news. If I wanted something smaller, say the tiniest news I needed to know about, where would I go?
You'd go to our last story, the Wii News channel, where we cover all the small news items you need to know about.
Number 5, the Wii News. Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, and Full Throttle Remastered have been rated for PS5.
I appreciate you that you wait for the drop of the song.
You got
'cause
to.
I do that too.
Oh, this is the hotness right now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I'm very excited to get another Grim Fandango platinum.
Got to use those tank controls.
Maybe there's some I'll actually
Did
play
it the
through.
first time.
Day of the
I know.
Tentacle. Or no, Grim Fandango is the one I've been wanting to play through. Hopefully I do it this time.
I think you'd vibe with it.
Evo has announced their 2024 games lineup. It goes like this: Street Fighter 6,
Let's go.
Tekken 8,
Let's go.
Mortal Kombat 1,
Cool.
Guilty Gear
Let's
Strive,
go.
King of Fighters 15,
Let's go.
Grand Blue Fantasy versus
Let's
Rising,
fucking go,
the one
Rising.
that saved it for me. Under Night in Birth 2,
Hell yeah.
and then Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Let's fucking go.
The Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo is out right now. Of course, go catch the Gamescast, where Adam Cole joined the boys to talk about playing it. 2K Games has laid off an unknown amount of people at Visual Concepts. That is Lego 2K Drive and NBA 2K. That was a sad one to end on. I didn't see that one coming.
I was like, I've not figured out Wii News yet to where I'm like, do I put the layoff news first?
I
Or
like
last?
Barrett killed the
Or
music
in the middle?
immediately. As soon as layoff came out of my mouth, done. That's the end of that.
Great Evo lineup, by the way.
Is it? You're happy with that one?
I'm very happy with it. I need to go to this Evo. This is the one where I'm like, I gotta go to this. It's gonna be the first Tekken 8 Evo, which is huge. Tekken 7 has had like a huge growing Evo presence within the last however many years, and like it's been crazy to watch. So for that, the first Mortal Kombat 1 Evo tournament, which is cool. And then there's a lot of new games coming out. So we have Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising that just came out and got you all the points in the Fantasy Critic. And then Under Night in Birth 2 just came out too. So those are 2 new games as well. And the Street Fighter Third Strike, that's like an iconic one that like they're bringing back as their legacy pick. Like usually they have a old school fighting game that they like to bring back for these tournaments, and Street Fighter Third Strike is iconic. Like that is the one from the Evo moment, if you've seen that clip of like all the counters and then
We're going freaking out.
so that's that one. And so this is a legendary Evo lineup right here.
Of course, we ask people throughout the show to go support us on YouTube with Super Chats, where you can then be part of the show. Obviously, we've read a whole bunch in the early part where we're talking about the Xbox stuff, but we have an extra one here from Nando, who writes this and says, the Gears of War collection that is heavily rumored could be an indication of what's to come. Why would you release that when they are all on Game Pass? Well, I understand we said a lot of words in this show, but to double back to the point, $70 is more than $15. So if you still haven't said, I will buy the cheap thing called Xbox Game Pass and play that anywhere, maybe you never will. Maybe you're committed to PlayStation. And so Phil and his team need to make money to keep the rest of the team employed. And so if they have a product that's somewhere you've said you're not going to go, and it's not making money, and this is the thing that when you go in your mom's purse and you open it up, you see it in her wallet. If they're not making that money, they need to go find that money and bring it in to support all the people that work with them. And so they've said, you're not buying it here, we'll put it somewhere else for you to buy. And so if you've already bought it on the other place, that's great. You've done your thing. You know what I mean? But there's a whole bunch of people who haven't, and they would like their money. It's called business.
I played a lot of Forza Horizon, the last one, and the last three on the Xbox via Game Pass. When I tell you, I would definitely buy them again to play on PlayStation just to get the trophies.
Yeah.
I'm a double dipper. I'll do it.
Double dip.
Double dipper. I appreciate this one. I'm not going to read the full thing from Raymond Hessel. They like wrote in with like, which WWE star would you have people in the office cosplay? And when I tell you that, reading through it, I'm like, it feels like Vince McMahon wrote this because it is so like.
Why, it's coming from jail or it's super fucking horrible?
No, it's not super fucking horrible, but it's the one of the ones where like Bless could play Booker T. I'm like, just because we're both black, like, what are we doing during Black History Month?
That's the amount of imagination they have.
It's like that's where we end. Like, why can't I be John Cena? Because I like rap, you know? You're putting me as Booker T.
It's true. We asked people watching live to go to kindafunny.com/you're wrong and tell us what we screw as we screw it up so we can unscrew it up when we talk to you. Someone with the username what the fuck wrote in and said, why the hell would you spoil Suicide Squad? I literally just started the game yesterday. You guys always talk about not spoiling it, and if you don't like the game, just don't spoil it. I don't understand how many more signposts we could have said we're going to spoil Suicide Squad.
We talked about spoiling it and then didn't spoil it for like 2 minutes.
You could have stopped at any point watching it.
That's on you.
Like, I just don't know. I mean, we're making a talk show. We need to talk, okay?
I'd actually, now that I think about it, I'd love to be Booker T so I can do like his little like spinneroonie. The spinneroonie. That seems like a really fun thing. And he had good music. Fuck, maybe they're right. They all, I mean, they also, their pick for Andy Cortez is also similarly like come on, man.
What did they say, Eddie Guerrero?
They said Mysterio.
Nitro says Greg Miller did review Dead Rising 2 and gave it an 8 out of 10. So there you go. Sal Romano from Gamatsu said, Greg, you said Sengoku Barasa and my ears bled. It's Sengoku Barasa. Well, Sal, if you spell it the exact same way, I can't change it for you.
You keep swapping the R and the S.
I can't. I don't see R's and S's.
Let me say because he's short. That's a good one. That's a good call. But Andy's like 6'4", so
we call him Latino Heat. So I mean, like,
I feel like Eddie, because of the Latino Heat, right? I feel like Eddie Guerrero actually would have been kind of spot on for that. Who's Billy Gunn?
Who is Billy Gunn?
Yeah,
on our team.
No, like in wrestling. Because
somebody said Mr. S. I'm an ass man.
Because somebody said Mike is
DX.
Billy Gunn.
Yeah, honestly, I think Mike would be a great road dog. He's got the mic skills. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D-Generation X proudly brings to you his tag team champions of the world.
Who's
the badass Billy Gunn?
Because like I'm thinking now, I'm like, ooh. Like I kind of want to say Edge for some reason. I don't know why. But Edge. I can see Tim spearing somebody,
sure.
I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He'd look good in a long trench coat.
And with the hair.
Sure.
I feel like Tim could rock that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily in the books. Remember, you can watch us record this show live each and every weekday to get you the nerdy news you need to know about on YouTube, Twitch, and podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, please support us with the Kinda Funny membership on YouTube or Patreon. Of course, you get each and every episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily ad-free. You get all the other shows ad-free. You'd get the ability to watch the podcast live as we record them.
Tim is
and of
Triple
course,
H.
He's what?
Triple H. Because he like kind of like, runs things. I mean, you also run things, but like...
I'm not offended, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
like, I can see Tim giving somebody the pedigree.
I think Tim's Jack Tunney. And I'll leave that out there for old school fans. Remember everything I said. Oh, and then Greg Way, which I'm going to have to do another one today, or a long one today, and have some good times.
Funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.